What's going on, everybody? This is JB from the Post Game Report. So, you guys, some of you who still listen to PGR know that I've been around a very long time, and I've never seen a generation where people are mocking other people for actually buying video games, and where people are so enamored with the business side of the industry that they feel as if they have to make constant content speaking about things they don't know anything about. It's a real stupid trend. It's pretty ridiculous and it's getting repetitive and boring and quite annoying. You have I've seen people on Twitter making fun of other people who are saying, "Oh, this, MLB The Show, for example, the show 21 is going to be available for Game Pass on the Xbox, but on the PlayStation 5 and I'm assuming PlayStation 4, you got to buy it." So it costs $50 on the PlayStation 5. I mean, excuse me, $70. People are making fun of those people who have been accustomed to playing MLB The Show on the PlayStation because it has been an exclusive, and they're making fun of people now for wanting to own it. Whereas with Game Pass, you have to rent it. Now, of course, you have the option to purchase it, so that's up to the individual, right? And so the same applies for the PlayStation individual. They want to buy it, let them buy it. If they want to wait for a sale, they have that option as well. Or they can buy an Xbox, an Xbox Series X, and pay $15 a month for Game Pass. There's options. There's always a solution to the problem. Paying $70 for a game is not a problem. And I don't care what people think in regards to greed. Greed runs this freaking country, so everybody's fucking greedy. We have people pissed off that people have to pay $70 for video games, yet they have a Patreon. They have these things called super chats on YouTube, where if you want to leave a comment and you want your comment to be acknowledged, you got to pay money. I've been on fucking chats where I've said something and I didn't pay, and it was totally ignored. But then the moment somebody pays $2, $5, whatever for a super chat, that'll get noticed. So you made that business decision, right? I'm not going to fault it. It's a decision you felt that you needed to make, and so be it. Same applies for these companies that decide our video games have not been raised. The cost of video games has not been raised in a very long time, since the 360 days. It's time to raise it $10. People went apeshit. And just because a publisher makes loads of money and the people that run it make loads of money, that doesn't mean that they don't want to make more money. You look at Apple, one of the richest companies in the world. You look at Microsoft, one of the richest companies in the world. You think they're in the business not to make money? Why do you think they bought Bethesda, Microsoft? Why do you think Apple acquires competitors that have competing software that they can use on their products? Because they want to keep making money. They don't want anyone else to have an edge over them. And that's business. So if MLB comes in and says, "Look, Sony, you've been making a great game for many years, but we don't want it exclusive on your console anymore. You either take this deal or we'll just open the license up for anyone to purchase it." Sony's going to say, "Yes, look, do what you need to do, MLB. As long as it's on our console and we make some money from it being on another console." And that's just business 101. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with $70 games. And you know what? We have a choice. If the game that is $70 doesn't appeal to you, then you don't have to buy it. If it gets poor reviews and I'm talking about the people who actually play it. If they say it sucks, then you know what? Stay away from it. maybe the smart thing to do nowadays is to wait a day and see how it is received, or wait a few hours. Wait a few hours, let people play it, and then go, you know what? All right, now I can, it seems to be getting great reception. I'm comfortable with spending the $70. Or maybe you trade a game in GameStop and you do it that way and get a discount anyway. There are options. There are ways to get around your heartache. And I'm going to say that because people act as if Sony doesn't know what they're doing, which is funny because Sony's only the leader in video games right now. They've been the leader, the top dog for quite some time, and suddenly people assume Sony doesn't know what they are doing. I don't know what the hell's wrong with people, man. People have, especially, PlayStation 5 owners. They've been bragging about all these games they have available to play, and that the fanatics on the Xbox side, have nothing to play, and all they do is stay on Twitter and YouTube. But here are the PlayStation fanatics doing the exact same thing that the Xbox guys are doing. So in this case, I believe the PlayStation fanatics, I believe they're in the wrong in this one. They look more ridiculous than the Xbox fanatics. I mean, it still doesn't excuse what Xbox has done or hasn't done. But now people people who call themselves PlayStation fans and make videos and podcasts and all this, they're looking pretty shady right now. They're looking at what Xbox is doing too damn much and responding to it. But I thought you had video games to play. Isn't that the reason why we got into this? Why we started podcasting, making YouTube videos about video games, is to talk about them, enjoy them with other people, share stories about the video games we're playing with other people. Why are we talking about what Microsoft is doing financially with Xbox and what Sony's doing financially with PlayStation? Why are we talking about that? People are wasting time trying to act as if they know better than Sony or Microsoft, as if they feel like they have to say something witty or something shady or something sarcastic in order to fit in, or even act angry in order not to look like a fanboy. If you're a fanboy, you're a fanboy. Fuck it. I'm a Sony fanboy right now. That could all change when Halo comes out, hopefully later this year. So, people, it is what it is. You are what you are. Don't try to play like you're anything other than a nerd like myself who loves video games and prefers a certain console right now over the other. Try not to, let's not try to pretend that we are more than what we are. So, I don't know, man. It's kind of getting sickening. So I just wanted to vent a little bit about that because I'm seeing it all over the place. People just throwing snarky remarks, claiming not to be fanboys or into the console war, and then throwing snarky remarks for reactions. And then it's the same thing over and over. You just kind of you can predict who's going to say who and when they're going to say it and how they're going to respond and how everybody's going to respond. It's getting pretty freaking boring. And this is not the gaming community I remember. So on Netflix, I saw a documentary called The Last Blockbuster. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It really brought back memories of the days when my brother and I would go to the video store and rent wrestling videotapes. We would go with my mother, and our weekend was set. We would rent a few wrestling videotapes, and then we would rent a movie that we all can watch. The great thing about the the wrestling videotapes, was that when you read the back of the box and you saw, you were reading the card for that specific tape, for that specific event, it was like house shows or whatever, and we would see Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. And we would go ape shit because WWE or WF at the time never televised Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, and that was like a dream match for us. So we would scour the video section. They had a shitload. This one in Brooklyn had a shitload of videotapes for wrestling, and we're talking about wrestling organizations like NWA, AWA, WCW, WWF. I mean, it was magical. Going there, hunting down something that we could watch, and then going home and watching it, and then sometimes we would watch the same videos twice. And then as we got older, some places were renting video games. So that became a thing. And in the Bronx, near us, there were a few places that rented videos and rented video games. Now, one had a larger selection, so you had to walk a little further. But we had it planned out. My brother would go to one, I would go to the other, and we would have an idea what we wanted to look for, and we would hope that they were available. Now, the great thing was, as we got even older, Blockbuster came around. But Blockbuster was like a 30-minute walk from us. It was in Fordham Road in the Bronx, so we either had to take a bus or walk it. And we preferred to walk. So we would go, and once again, hope that Blockbuster had the movie or game. And then my brother would rent something, I would rent something, and then we would, once again, rent something that we haven't seen before, something obscure. Like, because my brother was into some really, really cheesy horror movies. And then I went through a phase where I liked really, really cheesy space movies with mechs and shit like that. Like, that was my thing for a little while. So we would, like, we both would come home from work. We would go, without even knowing, we would go to different, sometimes I would go to Blockbuster. Then my brother would go to the local rental place. And we get home, and suddenly we got, 3 movies my brother rented. I have 2 video games and a movie. And then we had our week set. We were set. It was exciting. It was like, yo, we got popcorn, and we made a thing of it. I remember when Resident Evil came out for the PlayStation, the first Resident Evil. There was a place called Funkoland. And I remember a friend and I, we went to Funkoland because sometimes we would just go to look at the stuff that was there. Now, Funko was somewhat like GameStop. You go trade in your stuff, you get a certain value, and then you could buy whatever's there that's used. And they had some awesome shit there. And also, they would have a setup where they would play Japanese games from Japan on a PlayStation. From Japan, of course. And they had Resident Evil. And they were like, yeah, it's called BioShock. In Japan, it was called BioShock. And the dude was like, yo, it's coming out in a few weeks. So make sure you pre-order it. Right? Of course, he's going to try to, sell, have us come back. So our plan was to get it from Blockbuster. So the day that it was set to release, my friends and my brother, myself, and a few friends of ours, we went to Blockbuster as soon as it opened in hopes that they would have Resident Evil available. And of course, they did. And we were freaking hyped. Now remember, it was a 30-minute walk to Blockbuster. The walk back to my friend's house, because we didn't have a PlayStation. So my friend had the PlayStation. What we did was we got Chinese food on the way, and we spent like 10 hours in his house, taking turns playing, helping each other solve certain puzzles. And the experience was so freaking great that I still remember it so vividly too. And so the documentary, once again, the last Blockbuster, which is literally about the last Blockbuster video store available in the country. And it brought back so many memories. Like they talked about the smell. They talked about just going in there for an hour or so, trying to find something that you didn't expect to rent. Because for me, I had something in mind. I knew when, like usually Tuesdays was new releases. And then, of course, they would promote that. So you go, you pick up the new release. If it wasn't there, you would hope that the person dropping off the videos had that new release you wanted, and you're looking at the person behind the counter, and they're like, "Nah, this is not it." So sometimes you had to wait because they'd tell you, "Hey, it's supposed to come in within the next few minutes. Should have been here," and so you wait a little bit. And while you're waiting, you grab a video game. At least I did, and then you search for something that you haven't seen before, something that you really didn't, never wanted to watch, and you say, "All right, let me give this particular movie a shot." Because sometimes if you rented two items, you would get the third one free. So that's what I did, and there was nothing like seeing that movie or game that you were waiting for come in, and they look at you and say it's here. They hand it to you, you pay your fee, and then you rush home to watch or play. So it was a beautiful experience. It also reminded me of stores like Tower Records, where you would go, you would browse all the music that was available in Tower Records. You would sometimes see celebrities there because it was right on Broadway in the Village, right across the street from NYU. Same thing with the Virgin Megastore in Times Square. It was huge, and they had all these stations where you could preview CDs before you bought them. Even in Brooklyn, because my parents were divorced, so my mom lived in Brooklyn. And when she remarried, her husband used to be a DJ. So he would take us to go buy vinyl in Brooklyn. And there was a spot where you had all these people just walking around looking at different vinyls. Then you had a few DJ sections or stations, and you would give the record to the DJ, and he would play it. And you see the individual listening to the song, and you could see them thinking. You could see them coming up with something in their head, like maybe a mix or whatever. And then they'd be like, "All right, I'll take that one," and then DJ would give it to them. They go to the counter and buy it. A lot of the vinyls were open because of that, and I didn't care. I was in there. I would be in there an hour or so while he was searching for music. Those are experiences that I miss. I truly miss those type of physical experiences. I talk about the video game arcades. That experience, I'm very honored to have gone through that. And there's a lot of things that these new generation of gamers or, moviegoers or whatever, new generation of people will never experience, and they are missing out. And I feel bad for them because that type of experience creates character, in my opinion. There was nothing like being at a Blockbuster, watching somebody come in, and they go to a certain section that you're pretty, like for horror movies, right? You see somebody going there, and then they look at you and they go, would you recommend anything? And then you're like, yeah, boom, that one right there. Oh, why? And then we start talking. Same thing with video games. The arcade, you beat somebody's score and you guys talk and you guys become cool. Or when you went to buy video games, like as a matter of fact, GameStop. The last time I was at GameStop, I met some cool people. We were waiting for the PlayStation 5 to pre-order. There were some cool people there. I met some cool people. We talked for hours and just enjoy each other's company. And that's what it was all about, man. And that's lacking right now. So, yeah, watch it. It's called The Last Blockbuster on Netflix. I wanted to talk about that because, after ranting about these fools on Twitter and YouTube complaining about things they shouldn't be complaining about, it was nice to reminisce on something more positive. So anyway, I'm JVB. Talk to you later.